Hey guys, Garage 79R. We're working on Earl the Pink Tercel. Got a lot of work done. Pedals are mounted. So I pulled the pedals and the shifter out of another Floyd in a junkyard, I don't know, about 2 years ago or so. So the manual pedal is a little bit different for the brakes. You know, some people I know will just cut down the pedal pad and put on a manual rubber pad on it, but the curvature is slightly different. It's in a slightly different spot. So I had pulled that. So that was easy. Just, basically one bolt and then the pivot clevis pen right there. So, and the clutch pedal is easy to do. You do got to do some drilling. The holes are pre-marked in the firewall jute or sound ending, wherever you want to call it. Pull them off and you can see the holes in the firewall, and you just run through with a step bit to the correct sizes. The only downside is this lower bolt here. I can't remember. I think it was a threaded hole in the firewall on a manual car. That hole in this stuff was there, but there was no actual like thing on the firewall. So I basically bolted it up and just ran a hole and ran a bolt in there, and it actually pulled tight. So got lucky that it grabbed the metal good enough. This hole does exist. This upper support hole, it's threaded and it does exist. How the clutch mounts, primarily the clutch master has the studs that come through the firewall, and then you just run the nuts on it and it sandwiches the firewall. It's real simple stuff, not hard to do. So got the Tercel shifter modified to work with the Scion cables. So I had pretty much gouged these out to let the cable sit. This one actually has to sit slightly upwards, and this one sits pretty much level with the base, and that's exactly how the Scion shifter base is. So then I kind of made this contraption with little forks and whatnot. I mean, the cables don't move, and it feels fantastic. Now we got the modified bell crank here to match the distance on the Scion shifter. This was about 5/8 too long, so I took that out and made everything all nice and happy. However, I think with the way I had to route the cables, I was still having an issue. So I had to, it's kind of hard to see, I had to reposition this belt crank as well, because I think because the how it just wants to bend, and with the length of the cable, that's where it wanted to be. Simple enough. Cut it, hacked it, welded it, reinforced it, and it works perfect. So, a lot of good work done on the car. Gets us a little bit closer to maybe firing it up one day. So, still got a lot to do. Got to put the dash back together today. Still got to go through the wiring. It's mostly mapped out. Now I got to start connecting the dots. And we'll get there. This car I want to have running by summer. So that'd be exciting. Get that done and out of the way, and then I can start putting in work on the Malibu. Because again, the Malibu is at the money spending stage. Now this is getting there too, but not on the same level. I got to get a radiator. So it's looking like a Corolla radiator is going to be my best bet because it's got the right height. I might be able to use a Scion radiator. I have to do some careful measuring to see where it's going to fall, because they're like 2 inches too tall, or 2 inches taller than the Tercel radiator. So I don't know if I got enough room to afford to drop it down to make that work. That would be the easy button, and just make brackets to support it. But we'll see. I'll figure it out, and when I do, I'll explain it on my channel. Alright, so the dash is back in, and I'm excited. It looks great. And now after I've gone through the debacle with the shifter and cables, I think I could have just used Tercel cables and just modified the transmission end to make them happy. But, oh well, I'm here. This works just fine. So, I got a custom shift boot coming. Actually, I got 3. my friend Asia, she's a Tercel OG just like me. She makes custom shift boots for these cars, and she might do others. I'm not sure, but I know she definitely makes them for these cars. So when I knew I was starting to round the corner on this build, that hoping to have it done this year, and I've noticed that the four door and Earl's shift boots have seen better days. I went ahead and ordered three of them. So those two are getting like a light denim material that kind of matches the blue, light gray blue interiors that they have. And then the one I got coming for Floyd is a very special pattern. So I spent like 2 weeks picking out patterns or going through the patterns, and I found something with it's random, but if you see it and if you knew me, you'd be like, it just makes sense. So you have to wait and see when that arrives, and I have it in the car. So that's why I don't have the center put back together yet, because there's no sense to pull it back apart in 2 weeks or a week or whenever it shows up just to put it on. So that shift boot's going to be one little bit of like flamboyance in the car that kind of just sticks out. I also have this Buddy Club shift knob that I got from an old friend. He used to have a Paseo way back in the day. This is back when I still had my white car. He's a real cool guy. He was into the little nugget cars. He had a Charade as well. Not at the same time though. And I think he had a couple other random cars during the time I knew him. But life changes. People move on. Last time I talked to him was like maybe 2 years ago, and I don't think he even has a car anymore because his lifestyle doesn't require it. He like lives in the city. I think he walks to work. I'll have to see if I can find him again and say what's up. But so he gave me that little shift knob to kind of like celebrate our friendship that we kind of had because of these cars. So when he got to Paseo, I had the Tercel, and we naturally linked up, and we're doing little things. I made him like a little intake system for it. Some other just little tidbits. He wasn't really into heavy modifications. He just did a few little things and just enjoyed the car the way it was. And he had gotten that shift knob for it. So when he got rid of the car, which I believe was due to an accident, don't hold me to it. Again, this was like 10, 12 years ago. He gave me the shift knob, just kind of like as a token of our friendship because of these little Toyota Nuggets. And so then that went immediately into my white Tercel that I used to have. And I've held on to it. And so that's going to go in this car once this is back on the road. So I can't wait to just drive with that again and just kind of have those memories. I actually prefer the Tercel shifter with a light knob. For whatever reason, I've tried heavier knobs. The Yaris has a factory weighted knob. I've tried putting that on the Tercel. Just don't like the way it feels. I have other knobs. This is starting to sound a little weird. And I like the factory knob. It weighs nothing. And the Buddy Club is like a Delrin and like aluminum base. And it pretty much weighs exactly the same as a stock knob. It just has a nicer feel. So I prefer it in this car. Versus in the Yaris, I have a weighted knob to replace the factory weighted knob. And I've tried the Yaris with a lightweight knob. Didn't like it. Explain that one. It doesn't make no sense. But just the way it is. Actually, the knob I have in the Yaris is a Rogue Status knob that I used to have in my XB. Because Rogue Scion Racing or whatever was selling them at like their trackside displays. They were up at Summit Point one time. I think it was for Hyperfest. It had to be for Hyperfest. Well, because that's always a big to do. They always have these vendors and whatnot. And I happened to see it, and I was able to get it for like half retail for whatever reason. I guess they just didn't want to take it back. I've had that knob for over 10 years because the end of this month marks owning the Yaris for 10 years. And it's crazy to think that I've had that car for 10 years. And here's the funny part. The car that I've owned the longest is also my newest car. Because the Yaris is a 2010. And I've had it for 10 years. The Highlander's an 06. And I've only had that for almost 2 years. This car I don't even know how long I've owned this car. I bought this car. I bought Floyd at like the end of 2016. Because I was still upstairs in my old space, and it was like fall or winter time. And then Malibu I've owned for 7 years now. And it's just crazy to think time freaking flies. Do what you like, all right? Like, don't worry about anybody else. Do what you like. It's just insane. Like, it's like I blink and it's like a year goes by, and it gets worse when you get older. Like, I'm not even that old, and it's like I think about my dad sometimes. Like, what's a blink for him? You know, like, because my dad's 40 years older than me. He had me kind of late, so it's just crazy to think that stuff. But anyway, do you. Don't worry about anybody else. Just do a good job. Do it to the best of your ability. If you can't do it, willingly pay someone that knows what they're doing how to do it. There's a lot of hack jobs out there. If you can find out one guy that knows what he's doing, pay him what he's worth. Don't try to cheap him down or whatever. Most real car guys that are working for themselves understand, hey, this might be a budget build. We might need to do things a little differently. You still got to pay the labor. So always take that in consideration. Support your local fabricators, wherever you are. You got to, usually there's good ones in just about every region. Some are better than others, and some have better experience in certain fields than others. But we're all out there, and find them and pay them what they're worth, because this is a dying breed. So I've been working on a video, just a little bit. I've been taking video here and there about over certain jobs of what I do in my shop, just kind of show what I do, and a little bit insight of the ins and outs of fabrication life. None of it's going to be how to. There's plenty of videos for that, how to weld and how to do this, and just sprinkle what I actually do for a living, which is custom turbo fab, exhaust fab, intercooler fab, bracing. So I figured a lot of people might enjoy that. The video is going to be sporadic because I'm going to have different amounts of facial hair and whatnot, but I've been occasionally just taking video, and maybe by late spring I'll have something decent enough to put out. So I'll see you guys in the next video, and hopefully we'll have a little bit more done to show.